Welcome back to Fight Club here on TalkSport. My name's Ronald McIntosh, Barry McGuigan alongside us in the studio, and we are looking ahead in this particular section of the programme to all things that point to the Battle of Britain. Carl Froch, the reigning champion of the IBF and WBA governing bodies, putting his titles on the line against George Groves. We've already heard from Froch. Let's hear now from the challenger, who began by telling us how his preparations are going ahead of the biggest fight of his life.
As the cliche goes, preparation's been perfect. Couldn't ask for a better camp. Everything's been great. As everyone knows now, I'm working with a new trainer, Paddy Fitzpatrick, who I've worked with before, so we didn't have to need to build a chemistry together, but we're doing things a little different, and that's fun and exciting for me. And just can't wait to get in there and get the job done.
Well, we can't wait for that opening bell either, George, and just want to elaborate on that a little bit, because as you say, you've got a new training situation, a new training setup. Adam Booth, no longer your trainer, Paddy Fitzpatrick is. Just tell us how big a distraction, how big a wrench has it been for you to leave the man who has guided you to all 19 of your professional victories to this point in your career?
No, none at all. I mean, it wasn't a shock thing. It was a thing that was probably on the cards. I'm fortunate enough to find another good quality trainer in Paddy. 10 weeks out from a fight, perfect time to start a camp, and we got straight down to business.
Are we able to ask you who you sparred with, or is that a sort of well-kept secret?
I did a bit with Chris Eubank Jr., I did a bit with Nathan Cleverly, and then I had a few secret Russians over as usual.
The final point on this whole training situation you've got, George. You're the boxer, you're the man that goes out there and execute the fight plan, but Adam Booth was largely credited with devising those strategies and turning you from the aggressive amateur that you were into the measured boxer-puncher that you are now. So how will you box now that you're with Fitzpatrick and now that Booth's presence is no longer there?
He's not going to tell you that.
No, of course, you'll get to see how I'm going to box November 23rd, and I think I've showed a variety of different styles, my 19 fights. So people are unsure how I'm going to approach this fight. I think reading between the lines of what Carl Froch has been saying lately, he assumes I'm going to get in there and run from him because he understands that I've got faster hands than him and I box better long than him.
We've heard about these infamous sparring sessions where you've been knocked down and then you got up, but we haven't heard. I listened to the ringside show again, and you were very much in Carl's face, and you said, I got up, tapped you on the side, and then the next day I schooled you. So tell us a little bit more about those sparring sessions.
If I had sort of denied Carl for dropping me, there'd be more that could be made out of it. But the truth is, I held my hand up, said, yep, well, I was lazy, laying on the ropes, and my knee touched down, I got back up, we carried on. He sort of, and I genuinely, for his own self-security, has envisioned that this was far more catastrophic than it really was. That he first of all claims that I was knocked out, and no, I wasn't. I was drugged, I got back up. It happened in sparring. Big deal. He said now that he actually saw the punch coming, and he had to pull the punch at the last second because he knew with these big 16-ounce gloves and my guard wasn't going to be enough, and that I don't know, he would have ended my there and then in that sparring session. But that's pretty much how it was. I mean, just to spar as an actual fight, which I'm assuming he wants to do, you'd say I won that fight because I won that spar. Apart from that one round where I got lazy, got caught, got up, and carried on. Apart from that, I was controlling him with my jab, controlling my boxing ability. And this was 3.5 years ago. And George,
are we going to get an inclination as to what sort of tactics you're going to use, or are you just going to? Do you have a plan A? I mean, obviously you have a plan A, plan B, and plan C. But are you going to play it and sort of suck it and see, as it were, from the first bell, or have you got a dedicated plan?
I've seen Carl Froch. He's not always got beat. He might have got the win, but we've seen him get beat by fighters on the back foot, on the front foot, and fighters who've held their ground. And I can do all three. I can beat Carl Froch on the back foot, the front foot, and holding my feet and fighting him at puncher's range. I'll tell him exactly what I'm going to do at the press conference. And then after 3 rounds, when he goes, hold on a minute, this is going exactly how he said, all of a sudden, maybe I wasn't lying all this way through. Maybe I did have genuine confidence. Maybe I do know what I'm talking about. But hey, if I say it now, maybe I don't. It's up to me to go in there and execute it. But with regards to I tried this. If this doesn't work, I can always fall back on that, Barry. I don't think it's going to be like that. I think it's going to be, I'm going to do this, and when this is working, I'm going to show you something else. I'm going to keep chopping and changing, keep him guessing, and expose his limitations.
Big talk from the challenger George Groves ahead of the Battle of Britain next week at the Phones for You Arena in Manchester. Barry, what do you make of the composure, the confidence that George Groves is just oozing ahead of what is the biggest fight of his life?
Yeah, I mean, I was pleasantly surprised, when I saw the interview and where they were sort of going head to head and were talking and discussing it, and it really surprised me how confident he was, and he never gulped, he never backed off, he never, you see a lot in those things. A lot, body language tells you a lot. And I mean, I know that go on, you're going to say
something. I was going to say, is it real confidence, Barry, or is it, as Carl Froch suggests,
bluster?
Yeah, bluster, whistling in the dark, whistling past the graveyard to bolster his own confidence and give himself some false belief? How do you see it?
Ask me after 9 minutes if it goes that long. I think, ask me after the first 3 minutes, because that's the reality. You won't know until the first bell rings, but it's worth looking forward to, I can tell you that.
And when you're dealing with an unbeaten fighter, of course, as we all know, we don't know what their limitations are. We don't know what their ceiling is. So how dangerous does that youthful exuberance, that fact that he hasn't reached his limitations yet, how dangerous a challenger does that make him to Carl Froch's reign as super middleweight champion? Well,
I mean, look, he's only had 19 professional fights, but the way it is these days, because shows are non-profitable, it's almost impossible to make a profit without a television show. So there are only going to be so many television shows. So that's the reason why most fighters are going in and fighting for titles these days. When they fight, he fought for the British title or the Commonwealth title after his 8th professional fight. So that's a difference. I mean, years ago they would have said that's completely bonkers. But the way guys are learning and developing is in the gymnasium. And I know apparently he was standing Mikhail Kessler on his head in sparring every single day. Not one day did Kessler have the better of him in sparring.
But the flip side of that is that he's a notoriously poor sparrer as well. He comes out getting all bashed up. Andre Durrell apparently tied him in knots when he went over to the States a few months ago, years ago rather. But what he was saying is that he doesn't spar to win the spar. He just spars to focus on one particular aspect of his game. So again, how much can we read into
nonsense.
That? Well, that's what he said.
I know he said that, but I'm telling you, as a fighter, that's nonsense. Every fighter wants to win every single round they spar, and that's the truth. And this thing of, I'm happy to lose a round to learn something, that's rubbish. You want to win every single spar, and you want to win because ultimately this whole game, this whole life, every endeavour is about confidence. And if you don't win the spar, it's going to damage your confidence.